I'm Landon.
And I'm Trisha. And this summer, we're traveling across the country in search of where to call home.
But not just any home. We're looking for a place to build a family that follows Jesus as a team on mission together. A place our family can hopefully partner with God to impact for generations to come. We're here at the end of almost our second week in the Denver area. So how would you say the last couple of weeks have been?
I think they've been great. There's been a lot here that we've really liked.
Well, let's jump right in.
Yeah, let's take a look at some quick stats.
So Denver definitely offers 4 solid seasons, but they're all pretty mild compared to what you could see in other parts of the country. The winters don't get that cold. The summers get pretty hot, but not super hot like you could in the south. So kind of on both ends of the spectrum, you've got definitely some weather in the summer and the winter, but not too extreme.
Yeah, I think the weather here is kind of known for changing from day to day or even within a day. And we noticed that while we were here too. There were some days that would be like really sunny earlier in the day, and then maybe in like the evening time it would start getting cloudy and raining and even a thunderstorm, but then the sun would come back out after that.
Yeah, there's like most days, in fact, I can't think of a single day where the sun wasn't shining at some point.
Yeah.
But then also most days there was lightning at some point.
Yeah. As far as population goes, the Denver metro has about 3 million people.
Yeah, and that makes it number 19 in the country, just below San Diego metro area and just above the Baltimore area. As far as affordability, the cost of housing in particular here is fairly high. I would say it definitely stretches that low to medium kind of cost of living that we're looking for in our next place to live. But in terms of the numbers, the average home price in Denver is $568,000 right now as we're talking in July of 2023. The median price of a 4-bed, 2-bath here in Denver is about $800,000. I think as we've looked around, we've kind of felt like in the areas that we're looking, we'd probably need a house budget of about $700,000 or so to really get something that would feel pretty solidly livable.
Yeah, the property tax here, though, is really low at just over 0.5%, which puts the property tax for an average home at just over $4,200 a year.
From a crime perspective, Denver is in the top 1% of most crime-ridden cities, I guess. But, you know, most major cities are going to be somewhere in that like top 2 to 1% to maybe within the 1%. So Denver's kind of, I would say, pretty average, but maybe a little bit more crime than average. But most of that is definitely property crime rather than violent crime.
Seems like a lot of big cities have like pockets too, where it's like more crime in this area, but then there's areas that don't really have much at all.
Yeah, and I think we've seen that here. Like most of the places we've been walking around feel super safe and it's not really a concern from our perspective.
Right. So 11.6% of the residents in Denver live in poverty, which is actually pretty low for a city of its size.
Meanwhile, the city's tax base has grown 85% in the last 10 years, which is really significant compared to any other city I've looked at recently.
And with that, you tend to see that a lot of the Denver schools are really highly rated. And about 55% of the population here has a bachelor's degree or higher, which is on the higher side of that. Say, drew us.
So those are some of just the pure stats, but let's talk a little bit about what made us excited to come check out Denver. What made you excited to come see what Denver was like?
Well, I think on our little spreadsheet that we made about all like the different weather and stuff, this was definitely a place that, as you kind of mentioned, has all the 4 seasons, but nothing is super extreme, which I think has appeal. It was also, I think, the sunniest of all the places we looked at, or that had the highest days of sunshine.
Hawaii is sunnier, but
yeah. So that was definitely appeal. We like sunshine. And I think also just the kind of reputation of Denver having a lot of like outdoor things, you know, being near the mountains, all that was an appeal and something that has proved true.
Yeah, I would agree that like the proximity to the mountains and everything and like great hiking and national parks and all that sort of thing, I think it probably has the most access to that of any city that we're looking at. There's really not very many cities of its size that have this kind of access to nature.
Yeah. I think also it's just a place you hear about a lot of people really liking. And I think like as we've been here, we've talked to some people who have said like, yeah, once you live here, you never go back kind of thing. So I feel like that kind of reputation that we'd heard was like intriguing, like, okay, well, let's check it out.
Yeah. What about some of the hesitations that we had with Denver? For me, one of the things that made me a little less sure, particularly as we got to appreciate more of what the cost of living is like, is just that affordability. I wasn't quite sure, like, what can you get for different amounts of money here? And like, what does it really take to feel like you're in like an area that you'd want to be in and that kind of thing? And just what's the expense of living here look like?
Yeah, that was definitely a hesitation. I think another thing that we weren't sure how it would be was just like the culture and the people.
Yeah, I think culturally, one of the things that I was curious about was it seems like reputation in Denver is, I think rightly, that a lot of people move here from other places. And I was kind of curious to see, like, does that end up creating kind of a feel of like anonymous in the big city kind of a vibe where maybe people don't know each other that well because everybody's like new here. And so I was curious to see how does that actually feel as we experience the place.
Yeah. So if you've ever looked at a map of Denver, there's a lot to check out. And we were a little intimidated by like, how do we even figure out where to look here? I mean,
there's just so many cities to possibly consider.
Yeah. And, we're only here for 2 weeks. Like, we're not going to have time to check everything out. So we kind of ended up concentrating our focus on like kind of the western part of Denver and even more specifically the northwestern quadrant. Yeah,
we checked out some of the southwestern areas too, but mostly that like areas from like Westminster and Arvada up in the northwest to down to like as far as like Morrison or so, Littleton. So we were staying in Wheat Ridge, which is on the western part, sort of halfway between Denver and Golden, which is kind of where the mountains really start, I would say. And the western part of Denver really was our main focus, mostly because the proximity to the mountains is just, you're right there. And so it feels like if you're going to be in Denver, why not be on the side that's closer to the mountains and closer access to all that stuff, which is really one of the biggest draws to Denver for us.
Denver.
So let's talk a little bit more about like what did we find in Denver? What has been our experience here? Maybe you can start off talking a little bit about what made Denver and really the Denver metro feel distinct from other places you've been.
Yeah, I think one thing that we've repeatedly mentioned to each other is just the parks here are really awesome. The first park we went to was the one that was kind of near the neighborhood that we're staying in. There was like a splash pad there and, a playground, which is, fairly typical. But then there was like this little kind of man-made little creek stream thing. And
right now, these rocks to move around in it and like just purely prime for like kids to just explore and play in.
Yeah. And I think those kinds of things really stand out right now because Owen loves water and he's super into any water related stuff. So, and a lot of the parks here have that kind of thing. So I think that has also really drawn me to them just, from his perspective. And he loved that. He thought that was so fun to like walk through the creek and play with his little buckets and stuff that he had and like moving the rocks.
Kind of feels to me like the parks here in general have had more of a like nature kind of a feel to them than most parks other places. Like even if it's a man-made little stream creek thing, there's like what neighborhood park has like just a creek going through it that's like made for kids to play in?
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
There've been other parks that just have these really big, like beautiful lakes that you can have like these nice walking paths around, or there'll be parks that have hills in them that have like trails that you can just kind of walk like through the grass and brush and all of that sort of thing.
Yeah, I think almost every park we went to had, at least on like the bigger parks, had like some sort of walking trail through it, which was really nice, or around the lake or something like that.
And I think what's really been impressive to me is not that there's just like a park that's really cool, but just how many of them there seem to be and like how consistently they seem to really be at another level from what parks I've been used to experiencing.
Yeah.
I feel like those tax dollars are going toward those parks.
Yeah, for sure. My favorite park, at least to take Owen to, is we went there twice so far, and it's a nature playground, and it was so cool.
Really impressive.
Yeah, it was. There was just so many different sections. There's like kind of like a little playground area, but it's not your traditional playground. It's like made all out of like wood that looks, it's almost like a little obstacle course kind of. Owen didn't really do that yet. He's, I think, a little young for that section, but it just looked really neat. And then probably the hit of the place that most of the kids play in and that Owen like loved was, it's like, I don't even know how you describe it.
It's like a cascading little terraced waterfall section.
It's like, but it's like these like steps you can go up and down it, but it's like really shallow water, so it's good for little kids to play in. It's not really a pool, it's just kind of, a little shallow water spot. And then there's like a huge sand pit, and there's like little like tunnels to crawl through in it. And
there's like a little fossil of some kind that was like really big and like buried. I'm guessing they like rebury it regularly so that kids like can dig it up.
Yeah. And then like over where there's kind of like the little pavilion area, like it's like kind of up at the top of a hill, and they have this whole section that's like these like rock boulders that I think were made for kids to be able to like climb up the rocks to get up there.
Yeah.
It was just really neat. There's just a lot of really cool nature aspects to it. That's been my favorite park so far for Owen to play at least.
Yep. Pretty awesome. Another thing that's really impressed us here is just the access to nature. There's some of that just in the parks, but on the west side of Denver here, at least, it's really about 15 minutes from like the house we're staying at to you can be hiking. Here to Golden was about 15 minutes. And in Golden was one of my favorite things that we experienced the whole time we were here. It's Clear Creek. They've got this whitewater rafting and tubing and kayaking area. There were all kinds of people just coming through there, some of them without tubes, just going through the waterfall, like just with their bodies, but they had like helmets and life vests and stuff like that. But it just looked so cool. And this was all just like a 15-minute drive away.
It was just as fun to watch them, I think, as it was to do it.
Yeah, it was just like, it looked like such a good time.
Yeah.
Aside from that, another place that we went and checked out that isn't exactly nature, but it kind of gives the true vibe of Denver, I feel like, is Red Rocks.
Yeah.
It's just like there's people exercising there. You're among kind of just all of these red rocks, obviously. And it's just like not just a concert venue, but it's almost like tourist destination and exercise facility in its own right.
Well, like when you came in, it said like Red Rocks, Amphitheater, and Park. So it was like there's more to do and see. And yeah, it was just a really beautiful like spot to look out from the top. We like climbed to the top of the amphitheater so you could like look out. And I actually told you that. I was like, I know most concerts you want to like be at the front because you want to be closer, but I was like, I feel like it's not that big, and I would kind of want to be at the back because the view is just phenomenal up there.
Yeah. Red Rocks is about 15 to 20 minutes from where we're staying in Wheat Ridge. So again, not too far away. And that's sort of the easy nature access window over on that west side of Denver is like down from like Morrison up into Golden. There's just like so many hikes and everything that you could do all in there.
Another thing that we did was we went to is called Soda Lake Park, and it's like a really big like regional park. I think there's like you can do camping and stuff like that, but they have like a lake with a beach there, and I really wanted to take Owen because I just thought he's really into sand and water, and you know what better way to get that than at a lake with a beach. And
it is a lake beach, so it's not like ocean beaches that you could compare to, but
it was a little gravelly.
But it was a good time. It was tons of kids there, tons of families, and they all seemed to be having fun in the water. Lots of people going out on the lake and like stand-up paddle boards and stuff. Yeah,
it was a really neat area. I think you could get like a pass for it for the year, and it seemed like maybe a lot of families had that. So unsurprisingly, with all that access to nature, it seems kind of like the culture here is to be pretty active. There's always something to do. It seems like whether people are going mountain biking or going to a lake to do, boating or stand-up paddle boards, or there's the children's museum, or just going for a walk around the park, or any number of things, going for a hike in the mountains. There's a lot that's offered here through all the access to nature, especially.
When we talk to people just out at parks and stuff like that about what they liked and didn't like about living in Denver, pretty much everybody we talked to really liked all those things to do around, whether it's going to the Children's Museum or going to Rockies games, going to these different nature activities. It gave me a feeling that more than most places, people in Denver like to be out and doing stuff and taking advantage of all the things that there are to do here. So that access to the mountains is really something we thought was really cool and distinct about Denver. You can also just feel that as you're walking the neighborhoods and stuff around here a little bit.
Yeah, you can definitely feel that elevation up here with like the thinner air as you're walking around, and it's very hilly here, so you're going like up and down a lot, and you can just start feeling that in your breathing.
Yeah, you walk up to the top of a hill and you're like, I'm more winded than I feel like I should be. Which I think even over the couple of weeks that we've been here, we've noticed that has gotten less, and we've heard that after a couple of weeks you don't really
you kind of
notice
acclimate.
It a whole lot. Yeah, but when we first got here, you could definitely tell. And I still think it's just kind of cool that like there's not a lot of places, at least on the west side of Denver here, where there's just like flat roads for a long time. It's like you're always moving up, moving down, which I think just kind of gives it a unique feel.
Yeah, I think you said like it's kind of cool. You're getting exercise without actually really having to do much exercise.
Yeah,
or something.
You're just
like
walking down the street and like you can sort of feel that your body's working extra hard.
Say what we liked.
So now let's talk a little bit more about what we really liked in Denver and maybe some things that give us pause about living here potentially. So the first thing that really stood out to us within the first few days of being here is that, and hopefully this doesn't come across as like a backhanded compliment to Denver people, but people were really friendly compared to what we expected. We weren't sure quite what to expect from an interpersonal perspective, but the people here have been super friendly. Talk about that.
Yeah. I think it was like, we just didn't necessarily expect people to like go out of their way to like say hi. And I feel like we've experienced that a lot.
Yeah.
Like, just the other night we were taking a walk down in our neighborhood and there was a middle-aged couple out playing cornhole in their driveway. And as we were walking by, we just kind of said hi and
asked if we lived in the neighborhood, like was clearly wanting to start a conversation.
Yeah, they were like asking where we lived and told them we were just visiting, and they were just really kind, and you just felt genuine, like they actually wanted to know like if we were from here and, get to know us if we were. And then I think one that really stands out to me is, I think it was one of our first nights here, we went to go get ice cream, and it was like was maybe like a 16-year-old boy or something. He was working there and he was just like so genuinely kind. He was just, you didn't feel like it was just like, oh, I'm asking you this because I work here and I'm trying to be polite. It was just like, just asking us how our day had been.
Really wanted to connect.
Yeah. It was just surprising for really probably a 16-year-old boy to just be that like outgoing towards, some adults and whatever. And anyways, that just stood out to us.
On a similar note, like just in the neighborhood we're staying in, we've seen numerous times just neighbors stopping and talking to each other and stuff. And I guess when we came to Denver, we were just unsure about that being the case because it is such a big, metropolitan area, and a lot of people are moving here from other places. But I think coming from California, where I would say it's not like you can't find friendly people there, but it's like, I feel like you tend to experience friendliness in particular contexts, like around the people that you know and stuff like that. And if you're just like out at the store or something, I would say there's not a culture of just like friendly greetings to people that you're passing by or anything like that. Or for the most part, like in most neighborhoods I lived in California, there wasn't really too much of a neighborly interaction going on outside of maybe just like your direct neighbors. But here, I would sort of figured maybe it'd be similar, kind of being, kind of West Coast sort of still. And it's been very noticeably different, I would say.
Yes, very noticeably different. I think the biggest thing there's times where it's felt like, I kind of said this earlier, but it has felt like people go out of their way to say hi or walking down the street, passing somebody by. Most people have said hi to us. Yeah, even people from the other side of the street or people sitting on their porch. Like, it's just that type of thing I don't think really happened as much where we came from in California. Another thing that we've really liked since we've been here is I think we found that the west side of Denver has been very family friendly. I think we kind of expected like downtown Denver to maybe not be the most family friendly atmosphere. And I think we kind of experienced that to be somewhat true. But the west side has really felt very, very family friendly. The parks have always been like really full of kids. People we've talked to have seemed to really enjoy having young kids here, that it's easy to make friends with other people who have young kids. There's a lot to do around for their families and things like that.
And we talked to one guy even who was in the Sunnyside area, which is a little more urban Denver, like not in downtown, but closer to downtown. And he said that even there's a lot of people with really young kids and probably not the lifestyle we're looking for necessarily, and more of like, city living kind of atmosphere. But even there, it seems like there's a pretty strong family contingent. Another thing that's sort of a pro and con, I guess, for us is just the number of things to do in Denver is really cool. There's so many options for how you can spend time and have a good time with kids and just family activities, that sort of thing. However, it also does make me feel like the pace of life in Denver might be a little fast-paced still, kind of more of that, West Coast kind of a feel of, always going, doing stuff, as opposed to, maybe more of a Midwestern feel where there's a little more of a relaxed vibe. What would you say about that?
Yeah, I agree. To echo what you said, we love the fact that there are so many options, but don't necessarily want to feel like we have to do one of them every single day. We kind of like to have, some down days, and it's like, hey, we want to do something today. It's awesome that there's so many things to choose from. I think it's, like you said, a pro and a con.
Well, and I think like you can obviously set whatever pace for your own life you want to set, but I think that it does seem like culturally there's a little more of a norm here of, let's go do something kind of whenever there's an opportunity, which like we said, is pros and cons to that.
Yeah. Yeah. And some people might like that, and that's totally fine.
But a lot of the people here seem like they really are into that and always excited about the next activity to go and do, which it's a great place to do that.
Yeah, definitely.
Another sort of complicated topic for us as we've explored different parts of Denver is just the different downtowns that are available. So I think we've been actively learning even what we like and don't like as we've kind of checked out different places. But we really like the idea of being at least, in somewhat close proximity to kind of a small little kind of cute main street kind of downtown sort of a place.
Yeah.
That's just an atmosphere that we tend to enjoy, go get some ice cream or something and just kind of walk around, be among some other people. And that kind of an atmosphere is something that's really attractive to us. And I think that as we've explored different downtowns, like Old Town Arvada nearby, there's Golden, Colorado has a pretty distinct downtown.
Littleton.
Yeah, Littleton down to the south. Obviously, there's downtown Denver, but that's not exactly the kind of vibe we're talking about.
Right.
But as we've explored some of these different downtowns, I think that we've definitely found some things to like.
Yeah.
I don't know, what would you say? My favorite of those three that we checked out was probably Old Town Arvada, would you say?
Yeah, I agree.
But I would say none of the downtowns that we've experienced here in the Denver area really feel like, I don't know, they didn't quite click for us. And there are different reasons for that. But one reason is that particularly, I think, in Littleton and Old Town Arvada, it felt like, they were definitely a defined little downtown space, but they felt a little bit dwarfed almost by the big city around them, that it kind of felt like it wasn't an authentic like hub gathering place of the community as much as like a place you go to from your community almost.
Yeah.
Golden was a little bit of a different vibe. How would you describe downtown Golden?
Golden, I think, was really cool. I think one thing that struck us both was it was like a super Western like cowboy vibe, which probably isn't our favorite type of theme.
I kind of knew to expect that a little bit, but I think it was more pronounced than I expected.
Yeah, like everywhere.
You've got saloons rather than bars kind of a thing, and like just lots of statues of cowboys. Like that sort of thing, which is a cool vibe to like visit, I feel like. But
but
maybe,
to like call home, I don't know.
Yeah, I think part of what maybe also posed a challenge for our enjoyment of these downtowns is that on the way to Denver, driving over the mountains, we happened to just by chance stop in the little town of Frisco, Colorado.
Our favorite downtown, maybe that I've ever been to.
Yeah,
it was
possibly.
Like so charming and quaint and like, but well kept. It didn't feel super like old and run down. It was just like, I don't know. It was bustling with people. I'm sure it's a very touristy place in the summer.
Totally.
Well, probably winter too, but it was just like, I turned to Landon and I said, I feel like I'm in a Hallmark movie.
Yeah, we've heard similar things of Breckenridge, which we haven't actually been to. But it just like, something about it just has like a small scale to it that feels just very human, but also really does feel like the hub of the area.
Yeah, like you said, kind of the downside was we came across that first.
Yes.
So it sort of felt like a measuring stick for every other downtown. And I was like, nope. I mean, they were cool, but they weren't Frisco.
So I think maybe in summary, we found downtowns that we could enjoy if we lived here.
Yes.
But maybe they just weren't as enjoyable as some of the other downtowns of places we've lived. And for reference, we're talking places like downtown Davis, California, I would say we really like there. Downtown Madison, Wisconsin, on the other hand, is like bigger sort of a feel, but has a really special kind of an atmosphere to it.
Yeah.
So anyway, perhaps once we've really explored more downtowns throughout the country, we'll do a video entirely about downtowns or something. But those are our quick takeaways from the Denver area.
So probably our biggest hesitation with the Denver area is the cost of living. I think we figured out it would take probably at least $700,000 for us to find a house that in a place that we really like. And you could go a lot higher than that.
You could very easily.
Yeah, but we would need at the very least that much money, and that's just a lot of money.
And this is July of 2023 that we're talking, so who knows when you're watching this, but it feels kind of like we could work our way toward Denver being affordable, but right now it feels outside of our financial comfort zone. Yeah,
which we've also kind of thought is maybe a helpful benchmark to use for our kids and, future generations trying to get a foothold here, even if we can get to the place where Denver feels more attainable. This is where we're starting out, and it's probably a similar place where, our kids would be starting out. And so if it feels like it's a little bit much for us to find a spot here, maybe they would feel the same way. The verdict.
That's basically the big picture of our time in Denver. So what's the verdict? Can you see us ending up in Denver potentially, or what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think there's definitely a lot to like here. I think it's hard to say at this point, for me at least. I feel like I have a lot that I'm looking forward to with looking at other places and kind of comparing and contrasting. And I'm just not sure whether we get to the end of that and I'm like, you know what? Denver was it. That was, I think, the favorite place. Or whether, it'll be like, oh yeah, it was a cool place, but there's actually other places that appeal to me more. I'm just not quite sure.
Yeah, for me, I felt similar. My big takeaway at the moment is that I think if we ended up in Denver, we could really like it. And I think it would be a good place. And what makes me mostly uncertain about that is the cost of living. Like we talked about, it's just pretty expensive. You were talking about the other day about how you haven't really felt kind of the moment of things clicking and really feeling like, yes, this is where I want to be.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, I was telling you, like, I don't know if it's a fair expectation of a place to expect that I will feel that. I'm not sure. That's what I'm hoping for. I'm really hoping to go somewhere and just feel like, yes, this is it. And just like feel that pull. And I didn't feel that here. Not that I didn't like it, but I didn't feel that like this is home kind of feel.
Yeah.
So we'll see if that comes.
We may not find that anywhere really, which I think is probably the most likely outcome potentially. But, I think there's a very imaginable path to getting to the end of our run of different cities and thinking, oh yeah, Denver was awesome. We really liked it. So I think we'll just have to wait and see.
Yep. In all of our city videos, we're going to include a segment called The Sweetest Treat, where we talk about our favorite place that we found to get a yummy dessert treat. Say sweet.
So we visited in Denver 5 ice cream places and 2 donut places. But Trisha, what was our sweetest treat in Denver?
Well, I feel like we kind of came up with a tie on 2 ice cream places. The first was our favorite, like hands down best ice cream place. And that was a place called Rosie's. The quality of the ice cream there was just amazing. It was just homemade and a lot of great flavors to choose from.
Yeah, I think most of the places that we went were technically like homemade, they said, but this place really tasted like there's just such a rich flavor and texture, and the flavors that they had available were also a highlight. Like surprisingly, at least 2 of the places that we went, I think, didn't really have any chocolate flavors, which are like our bread and butter. We love the chocolate kinds of ice cream. And there was just no chocolate at some of these places. And it's like, what's your problem? But Rosie's had some good chocolate. And in fact, their Oreo ice cream was the favorite of the 2 flavors that we got.
Yeah.
It was so good.
The best.
Now, there was Rosie's was the best ice cream. The other place that we feel like is kind of a tie for a different reason is Little Man Ice Cream, which is a little closer to downtown Denver. And it's more about the vibe rather than the ice cream. The ice cream was good, but the atmosphere was exceptional.
Yeah, it was really neat. It was like the building itself was in the shape of like an old-fashioned metal milk jug.
A giant metal milk jug.
Yeah, huge.
And all around this big milk jug where there are all these different places to sit and everything after you got your ice cream. And it just had such a really neat vibe around the place. There was, I think it was like mostly brick flooring throughout. Just felt very kind of like old industrial, but like kind of reimagined and reinvigorated kind of a thing. And all of these little nooks and crannies to sit in on these different levels of the patio and stuff. So like if you're going for just the best ice cream, Rosie's is our top pick. But if you're going for like a cool place to go hang out, which I feel like is often what we're looking for in like an ice cream experience.
And with still really good ice cream.
Yeah, still really good ice cream, just not at Rosie's level, I would say. Little Man Ice Cream, excellent choice.
Yeah.
So that's it for Denver. It's been a good time. We've enjoyed the time here, but packing up our bags tomorrow.
Check back in a couple weeks to see our next video featuring our first city in the Midwest. Say woo! Woo!